Welcome to The Explainer. You know, some films stick with you long after the credits roll, and then there's David Lynch's Mulholland Drive. It's a masterpiece from 2001, for sure, but it's also one of the most beautiful and, let's be honest, baffling mysteries in all of cinema.
So is it a classic Hollywood noir or something else entirely? A radical experiment designed to break every rule in the book? Well, that's exactly what we're going to get into. We're going to break down the central paradox of this film, which, it feels like it follows all the rules of Hollywood storytelling, right up until the moment it just completely sets them on fire.
All right, here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at why it's such an enigma. Then, we'll see how it plays by the rules, how it breaks them, what weird synthesis that creates, and finally, what it all says about the broken dream of Hollywood.
So, first things first, we have to talk about this film's reputation as, well, a beautiful but almost impenetrable puzzle. I love how one critic put it, a story where literally nothing fits. And you know what? That's exactly why we're still talking about it, still captivated by it, all these years later.
And make no mistake, that ambiguity is 100% intentional. David Lynch himself has never, ever explained it. And what does that do? It turns the film into a cult classic, right? It's not just a story you watch, it's a mystery that you, the viewer, get to solve, or at least try to, over and over again.
Okay, but here's where Lynch is so clever. Before everything goes off the rails, the film kind of tricks you. It lulls you into this false sense of security by using all these familiar Hollywood tropes. Seriously, for about the first two-thirds, you're sitting there thinking, oh, I know this movie. I know exactly where this is going.
I mean, think about it. You've got all the classic noir ingredients, right? You have the mysterious femme fatale, Rita. You have the plucky, bright-eyed hero, Betty, on a quest. You've even got your stock characters, the sketchy hitman, the powerful movie mogul. Throw in a romance, shoot it all with standard camera work, shot, reverse shot, all that jazz, and bam, it feels totally, completely familiar.
And this isn't random. These are straight out of the film noir and neo-noir playbook. The movie's DNA is soaked in classics like Sunset Boulevard, films that always use the crime genre to pull back the curtain on the ugly, cruel side of Hollywood glamour.
Lynch then wraps all this in a very specific vibe, this almost candy-coated, idealized 1950s Americana. You see it in the diners, the old-school cars, that relentless optimism. It creates this warm, cozy feeling, a world that feels safe, maybe even a little nostalgic.
And that opening jitterbug scene, that is the perfect embodiment of this whole feeling. It's the Hollywood dream, distilled down to its purest form. It's that fantasy that talent will always be discovered, that pure ambition leads to success. It's a beautiful, seductive lie, and the first part of the movie sells it to us big time.
Yeah, well, that illusion, it doesn't last. Not even close. Because now we get to the part where David Lynch basically pulls the rug out from under everyone, shatters that perfect little narrative, and throws us headfirst into an absolute nightmare.
All of a sudden, that cozy, safe world gets invaded. You have these moments of just pure, surreal horror popping up out of nowhere. The totally normal is slammed right up against the deeply macabre, and you start seeing these terrifying flashes of the dark underbelly of that whole American dream.
So what's really going on here? Lynch is systematically taking apart the rules of storytelling. Everything you expect. Clear character development, cause and effect, a coherent plot, it's all gone. Instead, you get fractured personalities and random jumps in time. It's like the tools we use to understand a story have just been snatched right out of our hands.
And in their place, he uses the toolkit of experimental film. The structure becomes nonlinear. It literally loops back on itself. The whole thing starts to operate on dream logic. You see doubles, split identities, and there's absolutely no chance you're getting a neat, tidy ending. The story isn't being driven by plot anymore. It's being driven by the unconscious.
Okay, so here's the really crucial part. It's not just that the movie is conventional and then experimental, it's the blend of the two. The way these two opposing styles smash together is what creates that signature, deeply unsettling feeling the film is famous for.
There's actually a word for this, the uncanny. You know that feeling. When something looks totally normal, but there's just something off about it that makes your skin crawl. Lynch is an absolute master of this. He can shoot a totally standard conversation, but maybe the camera is a little too floaty, a little unsteady, and suddenly this familiar scene feels incredibly strange and creepy.
The movie even messes with the basic structure of storytelling itself. You know how most stories go?
You start in a normal place, something goes wrong, and then you get to a new normal. It's a journey from order to chaos and back to order, while Mulholland Drive starts in what looks like order, but it ends by revealing that the chaos was the reality all along. There's no going back to safety.
So how do we even begin to make sense of this chaos? Well, one of the most popular theories looks at it through the lens of Freud. The idea is that the whole first chunk of the film, the whole neo-noir adventure, is just a dream. It's the wish fulfillment fantasy of a failed actress, Diane. In her dream, she recasts herself as the brilliant, beloved Betty, rewriting all her failures and traumas into a Hollywood thriller where she's the star.
Another way to look at it is through this concept called hyper-reality. It's this idea that we're so surrounded by media and simulations that the line between what's real and what's fake just collapses. The film basically makes this idea literal. Hollywood isn't just a physical place, it's a fantasy factory, pumping out simulations that are so powerful, people like Diane can get totally lost in them and can't find their way back to reality.
And what about those recurring images, like the blue key and the blue box? They're perfect examples of how this dream logic works. They don't mean just one thing. They're these mysterious symbolic clues. Is the key for an apartment? Is it payment for a hit? Or is it like a Pandora's box that once you open it, unleashes a truth you can never escape? The answer is maybe all of them.
All right, let's zoom out for a second and look at the really big picture here, because this film isn't just some clever psychological puzzle. It's actually a pretty scathing critique of the very industry that made it possible, Hollywood.
And what's wild is that the film's weird, fractured feel is partly an accident of its own history. Get this, it started life as a TV pilot for ABC, but the network executives hated it and rejected it. So with all these loose ends, Lynch just went out, got more funding, shot new scenes, and masterfully wove it all together. He literally turned a failed TV show into one of the greatest films ever made.
The great critic Roger Ebert really nailed why this movie still works, even though it doesn't make perfect logical sense. He said every scene is like its own little self-contained story, or vignette. That's why it's so emotionally satisfying to watch. You're hooked in the moment, even if you can't quite figure out how all the pieces fit together in the end.
So, when you get right down to it, the film's broken structure perfectly mirrors its theme. It's a broken narrative about a broken dream. It's a critique of the Hollywood machine, showing how it churns out these beautiful fantasies for the screen, while behind the scenes, it chews people up and spits them out, especially the dreamers who come there looking for stardom.
And that brings us to the final, haunting question the film leaves hanging in the air. Does the true meaning of the puzzle lie with the director who made it, or does it lie with us, the audience, left to piece it all together? By never giving us a clear answer, Mulholland Drive seems to suggest that maybe the real power of a mystery isn't in finding the solution. Maybe the meaning is in the search itself.